What's up, folks? Welcome back to Out of Spec Bits, and we have some, well, I guess you could say breaking news because Hyundai has just unveiled the IONIQ 6N. We knew this was coming. Rumor mill has been spinning on overtime, and yeah, it actually was unveiled at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is actually where our friend Kyle is right now. So he's probably looking at it in person, probably filming a video, but in order to get something out ASAP, as well as getting impressions from Coleton here, which is a Model 3 performance owner, I figured that'd be pretty valuable because that is honestly the closest competition. So, Coleton, you have a Model 3 performance from Tesla, brand new one. This is a brand new performance sedan from Hyundai, and I do think it is kind of the first really direct competition to the Model 3 performance. We, of course, can compare it to all sorts of cars, and Hyundai IONIQ 5N was the first like spicy meatball from Hyundai that was like, wow, they're actually really paying fun attention to the EV space, having a blast, clearly. And I think we can use some of the IONIQ 5N stuff in this discussion because, well, a lot of things are shared, powertrain, battery, charging, etc. We'll get to all of that. But I want to pull up an article here because, well, CarWow has all the photos. They're the same ones I would pull from Hyundai, but CarWow's already done it. May as well give them a little traffic, show them some love. This is how it looks. First impressions, Coleton, because that's what everyone's going to see before they know anything about this car.
Yeah, it's way prettier than the last generation IONIQ 6, to say the least. I'm not sure it's the prettiest car I've ever seen, but I think it looks pretty cool. I love how Hyundai has been doing their N division with this very nice baby blue paint and the black accents as well as all the red on it. I think it's actually a pretty striking car.
I agree. And this is actually a brand new color, Performance Blue Pearl, which I forget what the IONIQ 5 in color is, but it kind of renders similarly, but it's actually a bit different.
Yep.
Of course, it will be fun to see you do kind of a build quality analysis on the detailing channel when this hits dealerships, because, well, we're close friends with our closest dealership. But also, I'd be curious to see how everything feels fit and finish wise. We're usually fairly impressed, I'd say, with how Hyundais are built. And that was, when the IONIQ 5 first came out, everyone's like, oh, this is how I wish my Model Y was. I think Tesla's kind of figured it out close enough by now, but still, Hyundai knows how to build a car. They've been building them for quite a long time. And it is crazy how different this looks from early Hyundais, decades ago. But also, yes, it looks, I think, much better than the outgoing IONIQ 6, because we are now in the second generation IONIQ 6. And we've, of course, seen the improvements on the second generation with just slimmer headlights. They were already really just pixels, and now I guess they're even slimmer pixels. And I think it's really interesting, this floating kind of design. The front and rear, we'll get to the rear in a second, but the front has just this huge gaping black section, which I think would normally maybe look a little funny, and maybe it kind of does. I really do think this is a very subjectively designed car. Like, a lot of people are going to hate it, a lot of people are going to love it. I'm intrigued, kind of like it. The front, how it curves, kind of reminds me of those, like, what do you call them? The hydrofoil things that go in the ocean, and they're like, the edges are sticking up out of the water, and the
Sure.
middle is from with the fins on the edges. This how this reminds me of. It's just like carving through water, I guess. Lots of black stuff. Interesting, how the blue kind of folds under, and then the black kind of folds on the outside with the wings. Very interesting. And yeah, probably a lot of active thermal management stuff going on there with flaps that open and close. The nice red line that goes all the way around the bottom of the car, which does seem to match the brake calipers, which are, yes, new wheels, new brakes, probably derived from similar tech on the 5N, if we had to guess. And P0 tires, nice and sticky, 275 width, so they're 20-inch wheels. Not totally sure what the width would be on that, but
That's
275,
a
I mean,
pretty
that'd
big,
be
chunky tire. I think that's a 10.5-inch wheel. So that's what Model 3 Performance of Highland generation runs on the rear.
okay.
So, yeah, curious to know, does this run a square 275 on it?
I don't know. Let's see. Yes, looks like 275 on the rear as well. So we're looking at square setup, which is a bit different than how Tesla does it on the 3 Performance, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So they run a 235 on the front, 275 rear. So yeah, nice square setup on this.
Yeah, I think it's sweet. You'll notice, in the front and the rear, this car is actually, I think, 4 inches longer than the normal Ioniq 6, and that really comes down to body kit stuff. I mean, look at this rear diffuser,
Yeah.
this rear, well, not fascia. I guess fascia's on the front, but that also has a lot of extra cladding and stuff that sticks out. Aero components. Same with the rear. That, just like Ioniq 5 in, makes it longer, but also wider with the wheels. The body is shaped to fit the wider wheels. That's the exact same thing as Ioniq 5 in, longer and wider, 4 inches longer, 2 inches wider, when comparing this to the normal Ioniq 6 with its updates. Also, well, no change in height, so I could mention that, but the spoiler I think is sick. Kind of a gooseneck type spoiler thing. The previous Gen Ioniq 6, I think a lot of people didn't like how it had kind of a double ducktail thing
Yeah, I
in
was
the
not
back.
into it at all.
Um, this one actually shows just, the normal Ioniq 6 just has the single ducktail thing at the very back, which I think smooths out the design a bit. This one then adds kind of a floating gooseneck thing, which people have equated to a GT3 RS. And I guess fun fact, this has the exact same accelerate 0 to 60 as a GT3 RS, so that's pretty cool. but
Yeah, dude, it
um,
looks really pretty aggressive. It's pretty
yeah,
wild looking. I
uh,
like that rear quarter panel. It gives me very much M3 vibes on it. If you go
mm,
back to that photo right there, you can see
yeah.
right behind the door how that flare sticks out. It's pretty epic.
Yeah, I will say the back has just also a lot of black, like the blue edge just kind of carves way above where I would normally like it, and I'll have to look for a photo of the normal Ioniq 6 because I really think I like that rear better. I mean, do you think there's such a thing as too much black? Because the thing with the new Ioniq 6, let's see if I can find it. Um, it has a light bar in the back, which I think looked pretty cool.
Hmm.
But the rear of the new or the Ioniq 6 in removes that light bar, adds just a few dots across the back, which I think is a little bit strange. You can see right here, yeah, the
Yeah.
dots are kind of where the light bar would be, whereas the light bar would have been the entire width of and also the height of those kind of LED pixels, and it would have body color below the light bar as well, which I think I would have preferred here. I'm really curious to see if people would wrap it, change it up at all, but it's still kind of interesting. It's just a lot of black cladding back there, and I feel like we've seen that in some other cars. I mean, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the off-roady one. What is it?
Ooh,
I for- yeah, the one I
I
just
know the
filmed with
name.
a few
It's
months
right
ago.
there.
They just adding black cladding everywhere. Toyota, Subaru's done this as well. It I don't know if I'm the biggest fan, but I
It
guess it's unique.
It almost looks like your car got hit in a rear end collision and there was only a black bumper laying around and they're like, okay, we'll just put that one on there. That's kind of the vibe it's giving me. You can love or hate it. I think it'll look really cool in all black, which will be neat. But yeah, I mean, Hyundai's styling pretty interesting here. I don't think they've captured me necessarily with their styling, but like 5N I think looks incredible on the road. So this I think is pretty cool. I mean, they've definitely gone out there and they're doing their pixel design. I think it's an interesting looking car. The only thing that really cracks me up with, Ioniq 6 is they've made it this aerodynamic teardrop shape, yet it's literally less efficient than the jelly bean of a Model 3, which is pretty
I
funny.
know. Yeah, that's kind of, and maybe we should jump into some of the specs.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's the benchmark a lot of people are looking at. And when we look at, I mean, I guess technically the outgoing generation, but the Highland Model 3 was updated before Hyundai updated the Ioniq 6. So we had Highland Model 3 rear wheel drive long range, my exact car, versus Ioniq 6 SE. It was crazy to see how the Model 3 won in pretty much every measurable category except charging. Yes, Hyundai with the EGMP, high voltage EGMP, has really, really great charging. Nice flat curve, beefy curve, gets you to 80 much faster than my car does on its own native chargers. It is funny though. A lot of outlets who are reporting on this IONIQ 6N are mentioning that it has 350 kilowatt charging, because that's the way Hyundai says on a 350 kilowatt charger, it'll do 10 to 80 in 18 minutes. And a lot of
Hmm.
outlets annoyingly misreport that as it charges at 350 kilowatts. We'll get there eventually. It's been years of this technically misreporting, I guess, but whatever.
You should just know they charge well. And of course, being a Model 3 performance owner, I'm also our native EGMP ambassador over here with my
Yep.
EV6 and EV9. So yeah, I think the package is pretty cool. But yes, let's go through some of the specs here, Jordan.
All right. So what we're looking at is 448 kilowatts total power, 740 Newton meters torque. So that's 567 pound feet of torque, and then like a little over 600 horsepower, up to 650 ish with the in-grin boost, which
Hmm.
that's one of the things we get into with the Hyundai in cars. They have so much customization, which is cool. They've got drift mode, in-grin boost mode, the in drift optimizer is what it's called. The in torque distribution is just in everything.
Yes.
And they have multiple levels of regen, which is cool. 0.6 G's of deceleration, which is more than we can get with our Model 3s on regen. That's 0.6 G deceleration of just pure regen, which is crazy awesome. So it does win in that regard, I think. But yeah, definitely more power than the Model 3. The Model 3 is, what was it? It's like 400 or 500
It's
horsepower.
just over 500. Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked it up, but just over 500 and comparable torque. So this does have, over 600 horsepower, 567 pound feet of torque, more horsepower, 166 kilowatt front motor, 282 kilowatt rear motor, and you get the boost for 10 seconds if you want that peak power. And that's how you get the 0 to 60 time of 3.1 ish seconds. Technically, it's 0 to 100 kph in 3.2. They haven't announced 0 to 60. So that is basically a hair slower than the Model 3 Performance. Then you have top speed 257 kph, a hair slower than the Model 3's 260 kph top speed. So it's just so close to being the same, which is interesting because it has a lot more power, but it is probably, they haven't announced the weight yet, but we're guessing a bit heavier. About the same battery size, 84 kilowatt hour. This is the exact same battery. By the way, same powertrain as we mentioned as the IONIQ 5N. So that makes it easy to look up some of the stuff. Battery charges like a beast. I mean, what is it, 240 something kilowatts peak, which, yeah, Model 3 technically 255-ish peak, but drops precipitously, whereas this really holds it nicely. So it
Didn't the
will
new battery
charge.
pack get a higher peak speed with the 5N?
Maybe it was.
I
Yeah,
think it was slight. I don't think it was like a massive improvement, but yeah, it was a little bit. But I also think I'm having to remember the test. It's been a while since we've done that, but I feel like the charge curve was slightly worse or something like that. But yeah, bigger battery pack. I don't know. We need to look back through those tests, but it still charges great compared to Model 3. There is no question about that.
Yeah, it's just blatantly like a charging beast. That's what EGMP was big. Then they made big headlines with that for a reason. So the range for the EPA, we don't actually know. So they haven't announced pricing or EPA range or weight. However, WLTP range is 291 miles. So I did some math, which may not perfectly check out because of how EPA testing does vary with the WLTP, but the IONIQ 5 in WLTP is 280 and its EPA is 221. So using
Ooh,
easy math, that would put this EPA at about 230, which is not great. But
that's
I guess
really not great.
that's not the point. But also, I don't know. I don't remember. Model 3 Performance is like what, 300 on the nose ish.
Yeah, it's but when we did Brandon's Model 3 performance, it actually didn't do very well. I don't even think it did 300 miles in our range test, right? It was like 296, something like that.
Yeah, it was a little under 300, which is kind of expected, but it is still a. I'm guessing Model 3 will outperform this with pure range and actual efficiency as well. And that's just a physics thing. That's a weight versus, I mean, this has a lot more aero going on than the Model 3, which makes it look, a bit more. aggressive, but
Hmm.
also maybe a bit more chaotic. I like these subtle aero features added to the Highland Model 3 Performance like yours, especially the front bumper. I don't like my front bumper at all, my base model,
Yeah,
because it doesn't
I
have the
agree.
air inlets that really break up that huge fascia. So yeah, we're speculating on range a bit here, but all we know based on Ioniq 5N, but also EV6 GT, I mean, these performance vehicles from Kia and Hyundai, it's just not about range. But hey, charging's great. That helps make up for that a lot. It'd be bad if it was combined with bad charging, but great charging, poor range. I'll take that. I'm fine stopping every 2 hours on a road trip. I do it quite a bit, anyways.
One
I don't
question
know.
I have for you, Jordan. So on weight, I think Jason Fensky just put out a video on Engineering Explained talking about the weight, and if I remember right, it was like 1,000 pounds more than a Model 3 Performance,
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
which would
Um,
make sense because it's got quite a bit more power.
yeah,
But I don't know. That's there's three main things that I am kind of nervous about this car. Number one, the weight. Number two, the range. Number three, the price.
yep,
And if it's much more expensive than a Model 3, that's not great. I think it's going to have way less range, and then it's also way heavier. Model 3 is actually surprisingly light for an EV because it's just over 4,000 pounds.
yeah. It's really impressive how they kind of engineered that. Um, because there's a lot of, I mean, gas cars that are also heavier. I mean, look at where the direction BMW has gone
Yeah, it's
with
crazy.
their performance sedans and wagon. Um, so I do think Model 3 has that edge as well, and even packaging. So the Hyundai's premise with their even their in cars is that, hey, this is still supposed to be capable of being a family hauler. So still got back seats, still have a trunk and all that stuff. That's the same here. This is the interior. Notably, same exact center console as the normal Ioniq 6. The
Hmm.
Ioniq 5 in has a totally different center console than the Ioniq 5, but that's also just like Ioniq 5 had a weird center console anyways, so like I wasn't too surprised by that. But I do like the center console of the Ioniq 6 and the updated Ioniq 5s. I think it looks nice. It's functional, lots of tactile physical buttons, which is awesome if you like that kind of thing, which I feel like if you're kind of driving what's sort of meant to be a road race car, I think tactile buttons, it would have been cooler if they were like metal dip switches, but I guess plastic buttons is fine. Um, and you can see the key there kind of in this photo. It's still technically, I think, the Hyundai logo, but it's blacked out.
Ugh.
And
Ugh.
so it
Not good.
looks a little better than the fake like chrome one that we were used to, but still a terrible key, I think, objectively. And yeah, I mean, what they should have phone as a key and stuff if you pay for all the connectivity stuff, but I think we are also spoiled in the Tesla realm of just having the tech. And you can even see the screens here. Lots of infinite customization with dialing in the suspension, which, by the way, is an adaptive setup. So you can kind of dial it in how you want, similar to Model 3 Performance. But probably you can probably adjust more things in this. Yes, Model 3 Performance has track mode, a lot of adjustability in there too. But the level of customization has been both criticized and praised for this Ionic, well, the Ionic 5N, but now the Ionic 6N, because it's cool to have customization, but it's also like almost excessive. People get overwhelmed with the options and they'd rather just have, get in and drive, which you can do. It'll still work fine. But I could see either argument for that level of customization versus annoyance.
I think it's kind of a journalist problem in my opinion. With like 5N, I remember watching Kyle go through and he's like, there is way too many settings here. I feel like it's one of those things you kind of get the car set up, over a month of ownership with the car, and then boom, you kind of got it figured out. So I personally like that it has a wide range of adjustability on it. It's just one of those things that's going to take some time.
Yeah. I was trying to find photos because we're catching first glimpses, and I haven't gotten footage from Kyle yet. But someone who did film an initial walk around with a 6N pointed out that you open the hood, there's no frunk. There is normally a
Mm.
frunk in the real Ioniq 6, but there's no frunk with the Ioniq 6 in because of the bigger front motor, um, which Tesla packs in a really nice frunk, regardless of powertrain. So that's one difference. Although I will say Tesla then doesn't take advantage of the rear wheel drive by adding a bigger frunk. It's just empty space. So it's kind of like it would have been cool if they had gone that extra mile, but saving costs and stuff, we see companies doing that all the time. So I guess praise and criticism simultaneously of Tesla in that regard, but mostly just glad that all trims have a frunk in Tesla's world. This one doesn't. I don't know. Not everyone loves frunks. Not everyone cares. So curious if you guys care in the comments. Let us know. But the trunk is fine. It's a little bit smaller than the Model 3 trunk. But what's interesting is there's these cross braces that go against right behind the back seats. And so if you do open the back seats to do the pass-through thing, it has to be a small object to fit through the cross braces if it's a long object. So cool that it has extra bracing for extra added torsional rigidity. That's pretty sweet. They're bright red like cross braces, like matching the lower part of the car. But I guess that's a double-edged sword where it's like, okay, I guess we don't really get to take advantage of all of the practicality, but still has rear seats, has rear USB ports. Yeah, no rear screen, but
Pretty
does
big
have
rear seats too.
Yeah, I think decent rear seats and no climate control, but also does have vents, so it does at least have rear climate, which dogs will appreciate. So I don't know. Am I missing anything? Any more comments on your side of curiosities as the owner of what's probably the most direct competition?
I really have a feeling this car is going to be way more hardcore than a Model 3 performance in terms of kind of dynamics. The way Hyundai has done their N division has been honestly pretty impressive. 5N is a pretty rowdy little vehicle. And again, the breadth of adjustability you have with that car is pretty neat. So, I mean, 5N on paper, the hard part with it, it's like, okay, we're still comparing it to a Model 3, but it's kind of an SUV. It's really cool. It's really fast. It's very dynamic on a track, but it's still like, I don't remember, 20 grand over a Model 3 performance. So this will be really interesting to see. My feeling on this car is it's going to be the enthusiast electric sports sedan type car, if you will, where Model 3 performance is honestly, and I hate to say it because a lot of people criticize us for this, but it's kind of the default, if you will. It's like if you're bringing out a new car in 2025 on, it has to match what Model 3 is doing. I think they got close. But again, this car is going to be heavier. It's going to be more expensive, in my impression. That's kind of a hard pill to swallow there.
It's kind of like the Model 3 performance is like iPhone 16 Pro, and then this is like Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. It is a bit more expensive, a bit bulkier, a bit heavier, but also has technically more features. You just have to do a bit more digging and like maybe a bit more learning, whereas the Model 3 is like a bit more approachable and probably a bigger seller. But then this thing is like super capable and like the super nerds absolutely love it. So yeah, I think I have a lot of respect for both companies, for both cars. I would love to drive this. I'm excited to try it because I loved the IONIQ 5N. I'm sure,
Same.
you know, and no one gets in the IONIQ 5N and thinks that was boring. But I prefer the sedan seating position. That's why I prefer Model 3 to Model Y, even though Model Y is a much better seller. I think I would prefer the lower slung seating position of the IONIQ 6N versus the IONIQ 5N. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. We're kind of doing this as breaking news as it's literally being fully unveiled to the world. So I say fully with like an asterisk because we don't still know all the specs, but more specs may roll out over the coming days. So if you're watching this in the coming days, sorry if we're missing something, but hey, if we miss something, throw it in the comments. People will see that, like that comment, that goes to the top. It's a really great way to keep each other accountable, and it's kind of like Reddit in that way, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of our thoughts on the IONIQ 6N, which has now been unveiled. Looks spicy, looks fun. I don't think I'd buy one, but I kind of want my friend to buy one so I can drive it. That feels like my final
Yeah,
thoughts.
I think honestly, I really think this thing is going to be an absolute ripper. I think it's going to be really, really fun. It doesn't really speak to me. I would probably get 5N if I had the choice between the two. And I'm not sure either of those would replace my Model 3 performance, but I do think it'd be really fun to have one of these as a daily driver. I'm not sure it'd be my one enthusiast car. That's kind of my Model 3 performance right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have weird feelings on it, but I think 5N's a little cooler, which is weird because I'm normally not an SUV guy. I don't know.
Yeah, but it is really unique. And I think if you are that guy who has a Model 3 Performance, but also wants another thing, like yeah, that the 5N would be such a cool replacement to the
Yes.
EV6 because it's that kind of like more upright, bigger, boxier dog hauler capability, still crazy fun, and a great daily because while the range may be terrible, if you're just driving around town, who really cares? It still will accomplish all your errands, even a Denver trip and back. So, yeah, totally fine. Well, thanks for watching, folks. I meant for this to be like 10 minutes, but hey, here we are, nerding out about it as much as possible. And we'll see you guys in another episode very soon.